Hey everyone, welcome back to How We Innovate. My name is Dr. Brent Siebold. I'm with the Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, and we are powered by the Houle Curry Law Tech Venture Challenge and the MSIVD program here at ASU, a collaboration between W.P. Carey School of Business, Ira A. Fulton Schools of Engineering, and the Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts. So we're so excited to have Gary Lobaza here with us. He is the president of the Americas for MTD in the world of power equipment. They are innovating beyond belief. So to have somebody here that's been there, done that, figured out how to create unique value in a very crowded market is super exciting for us to learn about. And in addition, I'm joined by my co-hosts, my colleagues, my friends within the MSIVD program. Sruthi is here and Zafira are here as well. So really excited for us to get to learn from this guy. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us. Before we dive in, Shruti, you want to say hi to all of our friends and classmates out there?
Hey, I'm Shruti Bhaskaran, and I'm doing my master's in Innovation and Venture Development. And I'm very excited for this session.
Great. Thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm Zafira. I'm in the MSIVD program as well. We're the third cohort, and I'm also really excited to be here.
As you can tell in MSIVD, Gary, we have a bunch of rebels. Zafira, I'm so glad you wore your Thrasher t-shirt today because we are always looking for ways to disrupt, and this is what you've done throughout your career, is disrupt the competition, right? To win value in the marketplace, and really that's about delivering cool stuff to cool people. And in this case, it's in the domain of lawn care.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to kind of taking you through innovation and product development in a very mature marketplace. Not a lot of high tech there, but just a lot of really sound tools that are used throughout the world, and in particular in the Midwest of America. The industry's been around for a long time, making tall grass short, we call it. But there's many different ways to do that. And today's innovation case study, if you will, is a case study that I call Breaking Through the Clutter. As we were in a very crowded market, and you had to do something new and different in order to make that happen. You couldn't do just the same thing. And I found that our organization kept trying to do the same thing. And so I want to take you through how we broke through the clutter, not only in the industry, but also with our own organization. Real quickly, our company was purchased by Stanley Black & Decker recently. And although I was the president of MTD through the end of 2021, I'm now working to integrate the business into the world leader in tools and storage, Stanley Black & Decker. They have a really a $15 billion portfolio that includes tooled, outdoor, and industrial. Many successful brands that everyone knows: DeWalt, Black & Decker, Craftsman, Stanley, Lennox, Irwin. And then they acquired MTD, which had Cub Cadet, Troy-Bilt, and then another company, Hustler, which operate in the space of the products we're talking about today. They really made a commitment to grow the outdoor space. As I mentioned, they're about a $15 billion entity, and about 25% of their tools and outdoor business is now made up of in the outdoor world. So they're accessing a $30 billion global market and own about 25%, or own a significant share there, and a commitment to grow long term. So exciting to kind of take you through a case study in a specific product category that they acquired into. This is the breadth of their product portfolio. They have handheld portable, which is where Stanley was a leader already. They acquired two companies in the ground supported space, and you'll see the different icons there, the various different products. And then a couple other new robotics, which is an emerging space that MTD had, and then handheld tools. But let's dive into the specifics of the problem. The problem is kind of twofold that we're trying to solve. Number one, it was a business problem. The second one was a consumer problem. So let's talk about the business problem first. Residential riding mowers were something that MTD was a leader in, and that was a huge piece of the outdoor power equipment market, and we commanded over 50% market share. And there was an emerging category called commercial zero-turn mowers. Commercial users are very focused on efficiency, whereas residential mowers, they enjoy getting out in their yard and sometimes enjoy getting away from the people in their house, so they don't mind spending as much time out there. But as you know, two working parents households kind of started to emerge as more the norm. People became starved for time, and they saw these commercial mowers were very efficient and very effective because they turned on a dime. They called zero turn because you go to the end of one row, turn it around, go back. In a traditional residential riding mower, you have to kind of go in a big square, and it didn't have that turning radius. So what we did is we were very good at scaled initiatives, and we took that technology in the commercial space and learned how to kind of shrink it down and make a residential rider. So we were able to kind of have the only one. It was actually in Home Depot, and it was we had 100% market share in the residential zero turn space. But everyone else learned how to do that, and it became a quite crowded market. And then the current situation is the residential riders started to shrink. So that's a problem business-wise because of the market share we commanded. And then commercial mowers and residential zero-turn mowers began to grow. And just to get a sense of what those different mowers look like, on the left is a Hustler mower that has a 104-inch wide deck. Actually, the side of that deck kind of tips up so you can move it around easier. And then on the right is about, I think, a 42-inch deck for a residential rider. And it's just a lot more affordable. No one needs a 104-inch deck unless it's a specific application like a football field, whereas a normal suburban lawn, it really doesn't need that, nor could they afford it because the price ranges are quite significantly different there. So, as we begin to encounter this problem, we went from 100% market share down to 13% market share, and the entry barrier to getting into zero-turn mowers is a lot easier from a manufacturing standpoint. More expensive because there's more components on it, but easier to manufacture than a residential rider. A residential rider is more like an automobile manufacturing process, believe it or not. So a lot of entrants came in, and we started losing market share. And I went down to our trade show. It's held every year in Louisville, and I was there early, and no one was there. And one of our competitors looked at me and said, "If this show doesn't tell you something, it tells you that every single manufacturer has a residential riding mower, zero-turn riding mower." And so I went around, and it resonated with me, and I went around and took a picture of every competitor's offering, and this represents a handful of them. It was a lot more. And I came back and got our engineering team, our industrial design team, and our product line team in a room, and I said, "We're losing market share. We need to recapture leadership. How do we break through the clutter in this market?" Which became kind of a famous quote, and this slide became very famous. It's been used many times. And it was a simple little meandering through the trade floor, thinking, how do I take all this stuff that's in the market and bring it back to the folks that, generally spend most of their time in the office so they could see what we're dealing with. And, so this was a very crowded market space. At that time. So that's when, out of that kind of dialogue and business collaboration, the Ultima Series Residential Zero Turn from Cub Cadet was born. And the tagline is "Step up to the ultimate all-around mowing experience. Don't focus on one thing, focus on everything." And that's what we did. This illustrates where we were in terms of market share, and some very famous names there like John Deere, were way ahead of us. And at one point, we were the leader in residential zero turn. So what we did, I'm very big on big, hairy, audacious goals. So I challenged the team to propel Cub Cadet to the market-leading position. Find a way to break through the clutter and fend off competitors for years to come. Don't do a flash in the pan. Make it sustainable. I challenged our distribution partners, our independent dealers, to double their sales in zero turns with Cub Cadet. They all looked at me a little crazy, and then I came back the next year and I asked them to do it again because we achieved it. And then establish a growth roadmap so that we could take this design into other price points and targeted at other users, so that this wasn't a one-time initiative, it was a longer-term growth. So what were the results? Well, there's the picture illustrated above. In the first year after launch, we gained 8 market share points, and that propelled us to be the #1 residential zero-turn manufacturer in America. And I know everybody knows what market share is, I think, but just in case you don't know, there's only 100 market share points. So to win 8 in a year is very significant, impactful change. We grew business by over 100%, and part of that is we had great online star ratings. The product was loved. I think the design catches people's eyes. They like the simplicity of it. But it conveys simplicity yet durability, and everybody loves how it works because we've really focused on creature comfort. The seat is very comfortable. You can watch a football game sitting in there. And then the cherry on top of the sundae was we actually won the Innovation of the Year award for Home Depot, which they award innovations across their store in various different departments. And they went and did that, and then we won the whole thing. So it was really exciting to win that, and kind of just a crowning moment for the team, and everybody put a lot of time into it, and innovation into making this thing really successful. So, but pictures, how do we do all this? I guess is really the real question here, and pictures worth 1,000 words, and a video is worth 1,000,000 words. So there's a video that summarizes the process. So I'm going to pause and listen to that now.
When every zero turn is taking the same turn, it's time to break the cycle. Start fresh. Talk to homeowners. Don't focus on one thing. Push everything. 40 designs. Talk to more homeowners. Down to 8. Down to this one. A muscular steel alloy tubular frame. Strength without excess. A premium high back seat for comfort at any speed. And an Aeroforce cutting deck that delivers the cleanest, greenest cut. All so you can better enjoy this, and this. We stepped up. Now it's your turn.
So that film kind of summarizes the process, which took, we spent about 18 months on a new platform launch like that. We try to do smaller products in a year, but that really illustrated how we looked at things a bit differently. The yellow arrows up above really, just articulate a standard product development process that most, if not all, companies use. It was what we inserted in between each step or in the beginning that made the difference. One area that as we tried to kind of defend our share year after year, we do minor tweaks, and it was all coming from our very vertically integrated design team and manufacturing team, and the tweaks that they would bring to the product platform we had were not moving the needle very much. So what we did is we brought in outside industrial design resources to challenge the internal folks to think a little differently, because after years and years of doing the same thing, they kind of get biased to things that the company will do, the things that the company won't do. But if you bring in some external resource to stimulate a little progress and a little, challenge, it changes the way people think. It changes their frame of reference. So when we brought these folks in to submit other designs, we ended up with 40 different designs. We both from external, internal resources. We put them in front of consumers. We boiled it down to, I think it was 6, and then we boiled it down to, I think it was 3. And ultimately, we chose the one that stood far and away above all the rest, which is the one we went with. There were the other 3. They were liked, but they weren't loved. The other ones people would do, 7 out of 10 people would go right to that one as the first choice, and then they pick these other ones. But it was always the first choice. So the ironic thing about that is that design was actually done by one of our internal industrial design team members. But I don't believe he would have thought that out of the box if we didn't bring these other folks in. So having that input I think was really, a good move. And, our company was over 80 years old at the time, so there's a lot of tenured folks that have been there 20 years that, do the same thing, do great, but they just sometimes need to stimulate new thoughts. The other thing I would say is along the way there, you saw in the video, we inserted, and I can't really tell you exactly where, but I'm going to tell you that we inserted different touch points with the consumers, because typically you do a focus group, you figure out what they want, then the product line manager articulates to the engineer a consumer-facing spec. The engineer goes into their toolkit and says, I only have so many things I can use. I can't use a spaceship. So I have steel, I have nuts, I have bolts, I have frames, I have seats, designed this whole thing. And what I found when they started moving me from being an accountant to being a general business person was you really need to go back and validate what the engineer came up with, and not just start with the product line manager and end with the product. You need to kind of iterate through that process, and there's a way we've been able to do that and turn it around quick and stay on our timelines, which I can't share with you because it's proprietary, but it made all the difference. And what it did was it improved the impact and the likelihood of success of our initiatives going forward, because these platforms are multi-million, if not more than that, investments in getting them launched. So you do not want to not succeed. You have to almost have a foolproof formula, and it's not, nothing's foolproof, but we definitely improve the probability of success. The challenge is we had to add new capabilities, which nobody really knew at the time, but we would have meetings every Friday. We have routine weekly project review meetings with all of our engineering projects. But when we do platforms, we pull aside the key leaders to make sure everything, all the issues or challenges are getting elevated to the leaders, and we have a discussion. And we discovered something very interesting in this process, and that was our manufacturing capability. And again, I can't show you the new capability we added. This is a picture of an assembly line in our Martin, Tennessee plant that makes these. And it's much like an automotive plant. And when we brought that design to our manufacturing leader, his response in this group meeting was, we don't do that. And it's like, we don't do what? Well, we don't do tubular frames, right? Because all those need to be welded together. And we don't do that. And everybody's looking at me because they all knew the consumer said, this is the one. These others are okay. This is the one. And this is, kind of a funny story, because I talked to the guy this week about that. I told him I was going to share this with you, and we laughed. And I looked at him with everybody's eyes burning a hole through me, like, are we going to abandon ship and go with number 2 or 3? And I said, I didn't ask you if you do it. I asked you, can you do it? And he said, yeah, we can do it. Because I said, if we do that, we're going to win. And we did. So that was the, I think it's always, I think my formula really is knowing market opportunity married with internal capability is what a leader needs to figure out how to do. Know the market, know what your company can do, and make enough money that when the time is right, you can add new capability. So we added new capability in this tubular framing, which the consumers love. And I still think to this day, which is probably 5 years from when we launched it, or maybe it's 4 years, 4 years. Anyways, when we started the project, that's 5 years, is still the leading design in the industry. So the manufacturing team really, and we got support from leadership because we were able to give them a sound business case for additional investment in the manufacturing capability, and they were able to do that. And there's a lot of robotic welding on these frames, which actually most of our competitors on that 30 chart don't have robotic welding. They have human welding, which leads to, maybe I'll suggest it's not as consistent as a robot. So the quality and the repeatability on this is almost, you can't go wrong, So it was a great success, from our product management to industrial design to manufacturing, the whole integrated process with all the people in there really delivered a really home run product. But it wasn't without a lot of challenging each other. We had a great culture of being able to be candid and challenge each other. And also, we got a lot of support from the ownership team to invest in this because they knew it was, based on the dynamics in the industry, something we had to do. So what were the lessons learned? Well, number one, set and communicate big, hairy, audacious goals. If you don't create a vision for where you want to go, then the folks in the team don't know what you're trying to accomplish. So work with the team, figure out what's feasible, but then stretch it a little bit. When I challenged the dealer group to double the business, I think they all looked at me and thought, yeah, okay, sure, you're asking me to double the business. But then when they put the product on, I had gone this whole journey and I saw the reaction of the consumers in these focus groups. And you just know when you have a winner, it's gonna work. And so when they put the product on the floor, it sold. And the only reason we didn't sell more the first year is because we didn't have the manufacturing capacity, which we added since then. Develop a concise theory of victory. I'm very insistent that we know how we're going to win. You can invest money for a time, but at some point you have to learn, you have to be able to make money to keep a healthy business. So we always talked about, okay, I hear we're investing this year. What's our theory of victory? When do we get to profitability? When do we get the returns that we need? And you need to be able to articulate that in 40 words or less as you're going up the elevator with the owners of the company. So that's why I said, I challenge our team to be very concise about it. Don't dream. You can dream, but bring it down to earth at some point. Know the market and listen to your consumers. We talked about throughout this presentation about how many times we put this in front of consumers and how we did that. Introduce new inputs when things get stale. I could just sense we were going to get the same answer, and I knew we weren't going to win. And then know when you need to add new capabilities to whatever enterprise you have. If you can't address a market need and solve a consumer's problem, then maybe you need to add new capabilities to do that. So a couple other things I love to share, to folks like yourself. This imagination is more important than knowledge. You have to knowing a lot of things, but not envisioning what you want to accomplish. It only gets you so far. It'll get you far, but it won't get you that far. And I say, if someone wants to build a building, someone has to step back and imagine what that looks like. It doesn't build itself. It doesn't design itself. And that's why I love talking to folks, in entrepreneurship and engineering, is typically they're the ones that come with the vision. And I've told a lot of the engineering students, I've had a lot of engineers report to me, and I just say, you folks are the, Einsteins and Thomas Edisons of the day. You're inventors, you're creators. It's kind of fun to lead groups like that. And then on the other side of the thing, Thomas Edison said, having a vision of what you want is not enough. Vision without execution is hallucination. So you have to bring it out of the clouds into the ground and figure out how you're going to do that. And I think the Ultima series was a wild ride, but ultimately we had a vision, and I would say the initial vision wasn't nearly as costly as the outcome, but the impact was much, much more than we thought. So
it's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Gary. What a great story and a journey, and a lot for us to learn from. So appreciate the overview. We're going to take a break and then come back. I don't know about you, Sruthi and Zafira, but I have lots of questions. So we're going to dig into some Q&A with Gary when we come back.